Hey guys, how you doing? I'm doing okay. Very overcast, and it was a little humid a little while ago, but I think the temperature dropped and the humidity left, and there's a bit of a breeze now. This is going to be a very, very short little video. I just saw the news about a university or college. I think it had to do with diversity or Asian Americans in the university, something like that. And they kept talking about diversity. There's not enough diversity. And I've been hearing that word, diversity, overkill, more times than I care to count. And almost as many times as I've heard um, um, I can't think of it. I can't remember it. Identity politics. I knew it would come to me. Okay, so identity politics and diversity are the two terms that I've heard ad nauseum for the past few years. Diversity and identity politics. I'm sick to death of hearing about identity politics. And I'm also sick to death to hear about diversity. And not so much the word diversity, but in the context it's being used and the message that's being conveyed. Okay? That both identity politics and diversity have become highest priority among liberals. Okay. So, but I'm sick to death of hearing about identity politics. It's stupid, it is wrong, and it's what is dividing our country. And diversity, which they're saying is what brings our country together. Yeah, no. That's a cover-up. That's a real cover-up to the fact that they're dividing the country with identity politics. And they're putting diversity at our highest priority.
Go and get on back.
Get on back.
Get on back.
Get on back. That's right. Now, I have a list, and I've heard so much talk about diversity and the attitude about diversity as being so incredibly important, to the extent that they're conveying that diversity is the highest priority, and that here are qualities that are not as important as diversity. Okay, merit is not as important. Character is not as important. Morals are not as important. Ethical behavior is not as important. Values is not as important. Integrity is not as important. Respect is not as important. Knowledge is not as important. Compassion is not as important. Love is not as important. Friendship is not as important. Caring for others, not as important. And consideration of others is not as important. And so, they're saying diversity is the highest of importance, the most important, that takes priority over so much. Highest priority is diversity. So I'll say this one more time. I'll read this list one more time. High diversity is a super, super high importance. Has super importance. Is paramount above anything else. So much more important than anything else is diversity. So merit is not as important as diversity. Character is not as important as diversity. Morals are not as important as diversity. Ethical behavior is not as important as diversity. Values are not as important as diversity. Integrity is not as important as diversity. Respect is not as important as diversity. Intelligence is not as important as diversity. Knowledge is not as important as diversity. Compassion is not as important as diversity. Love is not as important as diversity. Friendship is not as important as diversity. Caring for others is not as important as diversity. And consideration of others is not as important as diversity. And you want to know something else too? They're making a big thing about how it's so important that the 2020 Democratic candidates show diversity. But you know what? They got everybody, right? All the different unimportant qualities of identity politics. That they're so diversified that they left out one little group. Jews. Jews. Right? You have gay, you have person of color, you have women, you have some Caucasians in there, but you don't have any Jews in there. Now, that's not really being very diversified, is it? You have all these different minorities. You have an Asian in there, right? Chang, I think his name is, right? But you don't have any Jews. That's not really that diversified. Hi. If you're going to exclude them, you're not being very diversified that way. So don't be talking about and preaching about how diversified you are, because you're not. You're not. In the 24 Democrat candidates that started out, not a single one that I know of that they've ever mentioned is Jewish. Not one. Now, you want to talk about diversification, and diversity among the 2020 candidates, you're not that exclusive, you're not that diverse, because you left out a Jewish person. If you brought a Jewish person in there, then I could see. If one of the 2020 candidates is Jewish, then I could see you got diversification. But so far, you're not diversified. There's no diversity. None. None. Because not one of those candidates is Jewish. Now, if one of them is, please let me know. And if one of those candidates is Jewish, I will retract my statement. Okay? So far, to the best of my knowledge, there is no Jewish person in that crowd of diversity. Not one. Not one. And I'll let you think about that. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening in. I'll see you later. Take care.